Now what we're doing is we're getting into the fun part of legs. We're riding legs, we're getting sit-outs, we're getting into the series that puts things together in cradles. What we're going to do is start with riding legs. You guys want to come in? Jake, you want to throw legs on? When a guy's riding with legs on, a lot of times you can get into cradles as well from this position. But Jake, we have a leg in here, and the bottom guy, the number one get out of legs is a stand-up. Not yet, but number one get out. If you can stand to your feet, the referee breaks it, it's potentially dangerous, legs come off, you can start all over again. So what we're going to do from here is the bottom guy needs to stand up. And what he's going to do is a little bit, watch me. He's going to go from this position, he's going to start coming up, and from here, he has to do this in order to stand up. He's got to bring his hands closer, closer, closer to his legs, put his hand on his knee to stand up. He just can't stand up by just putting his butt in the air. He's got to walk his hands back. And every time he walks his hands back, notice his head will get closer and closer and closer to his knee. And that's where Jake will drop off to a near cradle. So here's the counter to the legs is to stand up. Number one counter in legs is stand up. Number two counter is get out of bounds. Number three is the rolls and the switches and all the different counters you know. If you stand up, legs come off. You go out of bounds, the legs come off. Number one, number two counter. Here's the number one counter. And here's the counter to the number one counter. Okay. We're dropping off to a near cradle. The bottom guy says, uh-oh, don't like the position. I'm in the middle of the mat. I'm too far to go to crawl out of bounds. So he starts standing up. As he starts to stand up, he starts bringing his hands closer and closer to his legs. Jake waits until the head and the knee gets close together. And now the real difficult part of this, you just let go of the legs and drop off. From here, you just let go, drop off, and drop right down into your near cradle. He's already sat. Remember the one I talked about earlier with my legs sitting underneath? Got his hands locked close to the head. Takes him on up at 130. As soon as he pops him over here, he goes up and gets a leg hooked in. Figure four, starts to tighten it up. Or he may let that go, pop up and come on down on top of here. Or he can do the same thing and get a leg hooked in as he comes up. Up, over, and get a leg hooked in, and then he hits that arch. Remember the ribs across the nose and the snout here? It's not dropping off. So here's some options. Let's do it one more time. You have the cradle. Let's go from different angles, just swing around 90 degrees. There you go. Okay, his leg in. Bottom guy goes, uh-oh. He starts tripoding up. He starts backing up. Jake waits, drops off. As he drops off, he brings the two elbows together, locks his hand here, brings him out here at 130, drops him on over, holds him there. 1001, 1002. He's starting to get back points. Gets a leg hooked in if he can. If he can, he kicks up on top. Another type of finish here. Finish it off there. Or as he comes over, he'll get that leg. Either doesn't matter. Left on left or right on left doesn't matter. Does the same thing. Notice the arch of Jake's back here. Here in this position, coaches, here's something that's really good to do as a teacher. You know, a lot of times Johnny won't get this feeling here of the back arch. So you put your knee in Johnny's back right here. You get hold of his foot and hold of his chin here, and you pull him back. You push with the knee and pull him back. When you do that, the guy at the bottom goes, ow! You're really digging into a snoot here. Good. So that's one of the counters to the counter. He stands up, you're riding legs. What we're doing now is we're showing you multiple ways of getting into near cradles and far cradles from every situation that you can get into in wrestling. I want to show you how to get into situations from riding, from being ridden, from takedowns, just all kinds of places. You go, I never saw that. Are you going to do all these cradles? Heck no, you're not. But the idea is you're going to see that, wow, I didn't realize there were that many of them. I'm basically selling you, being a salesman, cradles. They're here, from here, underneath the top, over here. They're all over the place. And you're going to say, wow, I didn't realize there was that many. And then you're going to get sold on the idea of getting your hands locked, turning the guy over. So the legs, okay. Now, if the bottom guy doesn't sit out, countering legs. If you're riding legs here, one of the counters, he tries to sit out and come up around behind you. So the bottom guy takes this leg, he sits out to the right. There you go. As soon as he does, Jake sits up and back away from him. And as he goes back away from him, he goes over the head, under the leg, locks his hands. Now, all we're going to do here is we're going to go over here toward 10 o'clock. He's going to do a forward roll. Not a high leg over, a forward roll. He sits out, you drop back, you lock it, you take a forward roll, and over you go. On the way over, you get a leg hooked in, you're right back in that near cradle, you can hook in here, you can let go of that, kick up on top of his face here, get a leg hooked in, again, or, you know, any one of those series we just talked about. So, the guy tripods up, we drop down into a near cradle, take him over. If he doesn't sit out, we sit back and lock into a near cradle, and we do a forward roll. Let's go back to that forward roll. Let's say you had a near cradle on, Jake, without the legs in at all, just take a near cradle. And the bottom guy doesn't sit out. He's going to sit out that way and try to come up the back door in there to come out the back door. Here's one of the counters to a cradle. Well, it's not a 100% counter, but it works a lot, was trying to weasel his way around. At this point, Jake goes OS. We talked about what OS stands for. He's in trouble here. So what he's going to do is he's going to turn, make his head look toward me. He's going to turn his head this way, and he's going to do a forward roll straight up over top. He's countering the near cradle by doing a sit out, by weaseling his way up around. As soon as he sits out, Jake's going to counter the counter with a forward roll, and you'll find him in the same position we were in just a second ago. So the counter was a sit out, the forward roll was a counter to the counter. So we're taking the cradle, we're continuing this position. Okay, when we have the legs on, the last thing with the legs on, the bottom guy, you may try to drive back into him. If he can't sit and take him this way, maybe he'll try to push him that way by stepping up his leg and pushing back over that way. See how he's pushing back into Jake? What Jake does is takes his rudder leg, puts his rudder leg on the backside here to keep from falling down. So the rudder leg, like the rudder of a boat, shifts back and forth. Here, he pushes back into him, locks his hands, and now this bottom leg, he drives off the bottom leg. Which shoulder is collapsed already on his opponent? His right arm is collapsed already. So right arm's collapsed, right arm's responsible between 12 and 3. We go at 1:30. So Jake's going to drive off his toe. He's going to drive towards 7:30 and take him over at 1:30. And we're back in that position. Okay, so we have the three cradles we can do for riding legs. If he starts coming up, we drop off to a near. If he sits out, we sit back, lock it up, do a forward roll. If you had near cradle, he sat out, which is not really legs, but we just covered it, you do a forward roll. You do not do a high leg over. It's a forward roll, a somersault. Okay, or if he pushes it back into the other way, you reach over, take a far cradle, put down below, and over you go. So we have 3 different ways of getting them in when you're riding legs.